Hey everyone, welcome to another tier list. So today we're just going to be doing the films of Alex Proyas. He's only made 7 feature films so far, so not very many, but he is a very interesting director. He's actually Australian, and until a couple of weeks ago, I'd only seen I, Robot and Knowing. Um, I really liked the film Knowing, and I remember liking I, Robot, but I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I rewatched both films and then watched all 5 of his other films that I hadn't seen yet. And I thought he was a pretty good director, pretty interesting and unique, and I don't hear many talking about him very much. Um, I believe he has a new film in the works that's in post-production and is due out later this year, which will be cool because he hasn't made a film since Gods of Egypt in 2016, so it's been almost 10 years. Um, so we'll get straight into it with these 7 films from the beginning to his latest film. So the first one we have is a really bizarre and strange Aussie outback kind of adventure film called Spirits of the Air, Gremlins of the Clouds. It's a really weird title for the film. It doesn't really seem to match the movie, to be honest. Um, I didn't like the film much as a whole as far as its story and characters go, but what really stands out when watching this film is just its visuals. It has a really bright, vivid color palette and just the unique setting and design of all this kind of post-apocalyptic desert world in the outback just really looks cool and unique. And the closest thing I could relate it to is probably the Mad Max films, especially even the more recent ones with its color palette, just the very vivid colors, as well as that setting, having a similar setting and filming location and things like that. It came out back in 1987, I think. Sorry. But yeah, it's just a unique kind of looking film. Very simplistic. It's just about 3 characters, a brother and sister who live in the outback, and a stranger comes along. And they're trying to help him, or the brother's trying to help him escape from these people, and the sister doesn't want to have anything to do with him. So the story overall was lacking for me, as well as the characters. Mainly for me, it was just a visual kind of film as the main part that I enjoyed about it. So I'm going to put it in the C tier because it wasn't bad. It was definitely the visual side of it that elevated it for me. Otherwise, it would definitely be a D or possibly even F tier film. But it just looked so good that I can't put it there because it's something that's going to probably stick with me when I think about this movie. However, he went on to make some really big films after this in the 90s. We got The Crow and Dark City, which I think are his 2 best films easily. I hadn't seen either of these films before the last couple of weeks, and I thought they were both fantastic, to be honest. The Crow is up next. I'm going to put that in the S tier. So obviously there's been a remake of this film recently, which I haven't seen, but I've heard nothing but negative things about it. And after seeing this original film, I don't really understand why it needed a remake because it's such a good film and it holds up so well. Even though it does feel like a product of its time, a film of the early 90s, it still has aged well. It's got really cool action scenes and characters. Brandon Lee in the lead role of The Crow was great. It's a shame that he died, obviously, making this film, which is probably the thing the movie is most known for. But his performance was great, and the movie as a whole just was drenched in atmosphere. It was very dark and brooding and gothic as well. It had this real gothic, just dark kind of atmosphere, which I really like in films. Obviously, being a big Tim Burton fan and things like that, it kind of really appealed to me. It's kind of a superhero film as well, I guess. You could call The Crow kind of like a superhero, but also just like a revenge action thriller film, as well as a bit of a romance as well. So it's got a bit of everything, and it's a really great film. I really loved it. And same goes for Dark City. I actually like this film even more, so I'm going to put it up the top of the S tier above The Crow. This movie, I can't believe I hadn't seen it until a couple of weeks ago because it's one of the best film noir films I've ever seen, one of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen. It just has a fantastic concept. Um, People often compare it to The Matrix, which came out a year after this film. I've seen The Matrix that many times and I love it, but there was something about this movie, I guess just being fresh, having seen it for the first time, that appealed even more to me. I just love the visual style of this film. It just looks so tangible and real. It has that gothic kind of feel that The Crow has. Um, the visual effects, it kind of work like there's not that many visual effects. A lot of it is practical and it looks really cool. Just this film noir setting of this city that is never daylight. There's never daylight in this film until the very end. And it just looks really great. The characters are interesting. The movie keeps you guessing the whole time because it acts like a murder mystery for the first part of the film and then really opens up. as you go along, you learn more and more about the characters and what's really going on in the background. I watched the director's cut, which everyone says to watch, and I was glad I did because apparently in the theatrical cut, there's an opening monologue that kind of spoils everything that you don't get until later on in the film in the director's cut. So I'm really glad that I watched that version. I also bought it on Blu-ray, and I'd recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it to watch the director's cut. So I actually bought Dark City and The Crow on Blu-ray and 4K just in the last few weeks as well. That's how much I really like them. So I can't recommend those two films high enough. They're definitely S tier. So next up, we got a very different film from the director, Garage Days, which goes back to kind of a smaller budget Australian film about this garage band that's just trying to get somewhere, and they're trying to chase down this big time manager to kind of give them the break that they need. It's just a very simplistic, light-hearted, fun kind of comedy, romantic music film. It was okay. I'm going to put it in the C tier. It's possibly my least favorite film of his, but I still enjoyed it while I was watching it. Had some interesting characters, some funny moments. It was just a light, easy film to watch. But that being said, it's not a movie that I can see myself returning to that often. There was nothing bad about it, but it just kind of seemed a bit like a generic Australian midday movie, to be honest. But at the same time, there was nothing that wrong with it either. But I was just kind of probably expecting more, especially coming straight off of making The Crow and Dark City, making this kind of really different type of movie. But after that, we got iRobot, and this was one I had seen, but not for probably 15 years, to be honest. And then I rewatched it a couple of weeks ago for the first time. I did remember enjoying it, so I was looking forward to it a lot. And I kind of felt like it was probably the same as how I felt the first time watching it. A lot of movies lately that I've rewatched for the first time in years, my opinion has changed on them a lot. So I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe that'll happen, maybe I'll like it more or less. But to be honest, it kind of is where I was feeling it would be. I'm going to put it in the B tier. It was an enjoyable sci-fi action film, definitely not on the level of Dark City, but it was still enjoyable. It was more of a mainstream kind of film. The visual effects have dated a little bit in the 21 years since it's been out, but that's, it's 21 years old, so that'll happen. Will Smith was good in the film. Yeah, everything was enjoyable about the film. I liked it a lot, but I guess I was expecting more coming from the director of these other films. Although iRobot is definitely a big studio film, and Alex Proyas didn't write the film or produce it. I think I'm pretty sure he was just the director, so he probably had to give in to a lot of studio ideas and things like that, being a huge, big budget film. But all that being said, I enjoyed it. It was a good film. Nothing terrible about it at all. I would watch it again. And B tier is pretty solid. Next up, we have Knowing. Now, this is a film that I really enjoyed. I remember watching it not long after it came out, probably. It was one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought. It was the first Blu-ray steelbook I ever bought. Um, and I've always really enjoyed it, but I haven't watched it for maybe 6 or 7 years. And so I rewatched it on Blu-ray a couple of weeks ago and really liked it a lot again. I'm going to put it in the A tier because I definitely like it more than iRobot, but not quite as much as these two films. I think it's definitely his best film since then. A lot of people don't like the movie. It's only on like a 6.2 or 6.3 on the IMDb. I think it's really good and really underrated. Nicolas Cage has obviously made a lot of big sci-fi, over-the-top, silly movies over the past 20 years, but this is one of the better ones in my opinion. It kind of blends, in the way that Dark City does. It blends a lot of different genres. Like you've got this real kind of thriller aspect about the first act of the film, and then it turns into like a disaster movie with this big plane crash sequence and the train wreck sequence, and into a sci-fi movie at the end as well. And it really blends them all well, in my opinion. I think it does a good job. I think the performances are all there. Rose Byrne's really good too. I think the child actors they're just okay. They're not great. That's probably one of the more bigger letdowns of the film for me. But Nicolas Cage was good. It had a great atmosphere, good music, really good visual effects. The film looks really great. And yeah, I just really enjoy the whole intensity of it and the way that it meshes those genres together really well. So it's a really underrated film in my opinion. So lastly, we have Gods of Egypt. This is a film that's very controversial, not just in Alex Proyas' filmography, but just in general because it's a big blockbuster, expensive film, and a lot of people just say, "Oh, it's a generic, rubbishy, over CGI'd type of film that doesn't look good, even though it has a massive budget." And I kind of agree with all that while at the same time having had a little bit of fun with it. Everyone just says it's garbage, but I think I read a lot of reviews going into it, so I knew what to expect in a way. So I was just like, stuff it. I think it'll be fun. It's going to be silly and stupid and over the top, but I actually had a little bit of fun with it. Um, Not to say that it's a good film at all, but I'm going to pop it in the C tier, just above Garage Days. It wasn't a good movie, but it was fun while I was watching it. For a movie that's, I think it was a $140 million budget, the visual effects are very iffy. Some stuff looks great, but some stuff just looks real obvious that it's shot in front of a blue screen, which kind of adds to, I don't know, just the stupidity or fun of it. It kind of feels also like a throwback film to movies we'd get in the late 90s and early 2000s, like The Mummy and The Mummy Returns and all that. But so there was some element of the film that I enjoyed seeing, of a movie that's only 10 years old and not 20, 30 years old, that felt like this. Um, but yeah, it was a bit of a letdown. It wasn't a great movie by any means. It's not a film that I would really recommend unless you just want to turn off your brain and watch something stupid. At the same time, though, I had fun with it. I'm very much looking forward to his next film. It sounds really interesting. I've seen some screenshots and visuals from it. It looks like he's kind of returning to more of that The Crow Dark City vibe with it, which I'm really excited about. It's called RUR, Rosam's Universal Robots. It's like a remake of an old play that came out back in like the 20s, I think. So it's very intriguing, and I hope that it does get released soon. But as for the films he's made so far, guys, obviously Dark City and The Crow, I would highly recommend. I think they're excellent. I also think Knowing is super underrated and a really good film. iRobot is good too. But these films in the C tier, they're just okay. Like I said, none of them are bad, but they're okay for like a one-time watch kind of thing. Guys, he's only made 7 films so far. Definitely check out these top ones if you haven't seen them. Let me know what you think of his films in the description, and hopefully I'll be back soon with a few more videos. I know I've been lacking a bit lately, but there are a few directors. I've got a few more of their films to watch, then I can hopefully do their filmographies in the next few videos, and hopefully get them out in the next week or so. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you then. Bye.